Imagine losing everything you thought would make you happy. Money, freedom, wild adventures gone in an instant. And then imagine walking back home in shame, only to be welcomed with open arms instead of rejection. That's the story of the prodigal son, a story over 2000 years old, yet still one of the most powerful messages of the forgiveness and hope the world has ever heard. Today, we are going to deep dive, not just retelling the story, but uncovering why it still matters for us in modern Western world and how its message could change your life forever. The prodigal son is one of the most famous parables told by Jesus in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15. It's not just a religious tale, it's a story of rebellion, heartbreak, failure, forgiveness, and ultimate redemption. In many ways, it's the human story. In the parable, a wealthy man has two sons. The younger son, restless and rebellious, asks for his inheritance before his father has even passed away. In first century Jewish culture, that was a shocking request. It was basically saying, Dad, you are dead to me. Give me my share now. And surprisingly, the father agrees. He gives his son his portion, and the young man heads off to a distant land, eager to live life on his own terms. Sound familiar? It should, because this is the same spirit we see today. Young people living home, chasing freedom, chasing pleasure, chasing independence. It's the universal desire to break free from the rules, structure, and authority. The prodigal son represents all of us who have ever thought, I know better, I want to live my own way. At first, life is great. The young man spends lavishly, parties hard, makes new friends, and enjoys the rush of freedom. But eventually, money runs out. And when the money disappears, so do the friends. Soon, famine hits the land, and young man finds himself starving, broke, and alone. In desperation, he takes a job feeding pigs, a humiliating role for a Jewish man. Since pigs were considered unclean, he became so hungry that he longs to eat the food he is given to animals. This is rock bottom, and yet, isn't this how life works sometimes? We chase freedom, but it enslaves us. We pursue pleasure, but it leaves us empty. We think money and success will give us everything, but when it runs out, we are left with nothing but regret. This part of a story resonates deeply in the Western world today. Think about it: addiction, broken relationships, depth, burnout, loneliness. These are modern pixies. People are surrounded by material wealth yet feel spiritually starved. The prodigal son isn't just an ancient character, he is the neighbor next door. He is your co worker. He is your me. He is you. And here's the tough part: we often glamorize the very things that eventually destroy us. On social media, the prodigal lifestyle looks appealing: luxury cars, expensive vacations, wild parties. But behind the scenes, Many are empty, depressed, and desperate for meaning. The parable pulls the curtain back and shows the truth. In his desperation, the prodigal son remembers his father's house. Even the servants there live better than he does now. So he makes a decision. I will go back. I will tell my father I have sinned, and I will beg him to take me back as a servant. This moment is powerful. It's the moment of humility. He doesn't return expecting to be restored as a son. He just wants survival. He is rehearsing his apology speech, preparing himself for rejection, and hoping for just a little mercy. But here's something fascinating. The hardest part of returning home wasn't walk himself. It was swallowing his pride. And isn't that the hardest thing for us to do? It's easier to stay lost and then to admit we need help. Yet, that decision to return back to seek forgiveness is the first step towards healing. As the son is still far away, the father sees him coming. This means the father had been watching, waiting, hoping, and instead of scolding him or turning away, the father runs towards him. In ancient culture, wealthy men didn't run. It was seen as undignified. But this father doesn't care. He embraces his filthy, broken son and kisses him. The son begins his rehearsed apology, but the father interrupts. He calls for the best robe, the ring, scandals, and a feast. In other words, he doesn't just accept his son back, he restores him completely. This is the heart of a parable. Forgiveness that is extravagant, undeserved, and unconditional. And for the Western audiences today, this is a radical message. We live in a cancel culture, a world where mistakes define people forever, where second chances are rare and forgiveness is seen as a weakness. But here's the father who doesn't cancel his son. He celebrates him. He doesn't say, I told you so. He says, welcome home. Now picture this. Imagine you wronged someone so deeply that you expected to be cut out for their life forever. Then instead of slamming the door, they run toward you and embrace you. That moment would change you forever. That's the emotional weight of this story. The story doesn't end there. The older brother who stayed home and worked hard is furious when he sees the celebration. He refuses to join the party. He feels cheated. I did everything right. I followed the rules, and now my reckless brother gets rewarded. The father gently reminds him, Son, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate because your brother was lost and is now found. This part of the story is often overlooked, but it's crucial. The elder brother represents those who struggle with self righteousness, pride, and resentment. He is the one who thinks, I deserve more because I have been good. How many of us in the West fall into this mindset? We compare, we judge, we resent. We want fairness, not mercy. But the parable reminds us God's love and by extension, true forgiveness is not by earning, it's about grace. If the younger son represents our mistakes, the elder brother represents our pride. Both are dangerous, and both can keep us from experiencing real joy. So, why does prodigal son still matters in our world? Because we all wonder whether through mistakes, addictions, broken choices, our pride, we all have left home in some way. Second, because we all long for home. Deep down, people crave belonging, love, and acceptance. In a culture of isolation and division, this story speaks of a home where you are always welcome. And third is because forgiveness is revolutionary. In a society built on contracts, deals, and conditional love, the idea of radical forgiveness and unconditional acceptance is shocking and desperately needed. This parable reminds us that no matter how far you have gone, you can always come back, and when you do, you are not met with condemnation, you are met with love. Let's bring this closer to our time with some modern parables. The addict. The young man gets caught up in drugs, loses his family, job, dignity. After years of pain, he decided to get clean and calls home. Instead of slamming the phone down, his mother says, "Come home, son." If woman sacrifices everything, relationships, health, and peace of mind for success, when burnout finally destroys her, she realizes that the career ladder was empty at the top. She goes home expecting shame but finds her family waiting with open arms. Maybe it's not about money or fame. Maybe it's about conflict. A daughter cuts ties with her parents over political or personal differences. Years later, she comes back, and instead of rejection, she finds reconciliation. These are prodigal son stories. They are happening every day, all across the Western world. And they show us that the message of forgiveness isn't outdated, it's timeless. Here's another layer. In popular culture, movies like Pursuit of Happiness or even Goodwill Hunting echo this theme of brokenness, humility, and reconciliation. The reason we love these stories is because they mirror these timeless parables. They remind us that grace and second chances are possible. Psychologists have studied forgiveness for decades, and here's what they have found: forgiveness heals the forgiver as much as forgiven. Holding on to bitterness and resentment literally damages your mental and physical health. Forgiveness reduces stress, lowers the blood pressure, improves the relationships, and brings the peace. The father in the story didn't just heal his son, he healed himself and his family and his community by choosing mercy over anger. That's why forgiveness is powerful. It breaks the cycle of pain and creates the space for hope. In fact, research from Stanford University shows that people who practice forgiveness reports higher levels of happiness and lower levels of depression. Where you are. Here's the good news. This story tells us the hope, is never out of reach. One reason the prodigal son resonates across the culture, whether you are in New York, London, Sydney, or Toronto, is because it taps a universal human need, the need to belong. We live in a world where we are constantly measured by our job titles, our income, our relationship status, or the number of followers we have online. And yet, despite all the measuring, people feel emptier than ever. This parable cuts through all of that noise and whispers. You are loved, and not because of what you have achieved, but because of who you are. And isn't that what we are secretly longing for? To be fully known and fully loved? Think about this way. The younger son represents the part of us that longs for adventure, freedom, and independence, but sometimes make reckless choices. The older son represents the part of us that craves fairness, recognition, and justice, but can become bitter if things don't go our way. The father represents the voice of unconditional love, patience, generous, and ready to embrace us at our lowest moment. It's not just a religious story, it's a mirror that reflects back to us the struggles we face in relationships, careers, and even with ourselves. And the best part, the mirror doesn't just expose our flaws, it points the possibility of transformation. Here's what it gets personal. If you have made mistakes, big ones, small ones, public ones, or private ones, don't let shame chain on you. The younger son's story shows us that it's never too late to turn around. If you have worked hard, played by the rules, and still feel unseen, don't let bitterness eat away at you. The older son's story reminds us that comparison steals joys, but love restores us. And if you have ever doubt whether you deserve love, remember the Father's arm, wide open, waiting. This isn't just about faith, it's about freedom from the voices that tell you you are not enough. The prodigal son is more than ancient parable. It's living, breathing reminder that no matter how far we wander, no matter how cold or bitter we become, no matter how lost we feel, there is always a way back. The way back to love, a way back to peace, a way back to hope. And here's the truth: forgiveness isn't just about letting go of the past, it's about stepping into a brighter future. So, whatever you are, whoever you are, the message is the same. You are never too far gone. You are never beyond forgiveness. And you are never without hope. If this story touched you, don't just keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this today. Drop a comment below. Are you your younger son, older son, or somewhere in between? And if you want more uplifting content that speaks to the heart, hit that subscribe button so that we can keep walking you through this journey. Because at the end of the day, the prodigal son isn't just a story from the Bible. It's your story, my story, our story. The story of forgiveness, a story of hope, a story that can change everything. Goodbye.